I think it's a fair assumption to make about all of you, but here's the assumption. None of us want to be stupid. Maybe that's not a fair assumption to make about you. But none of us want to be, that's profound, right? None of us want to be stupid. And yet, as much as none of us want to be stupid, we do stupid things. It happens to all of us. We find ourselves falling into stupid things, right? You ever heard the phrase, hindsight is 20/20? Or how about this one? You ever heard, if only I knew then what I know now? See, we only say those things when we've done something stupid, when we've made a decision and we end up regretting. And so the question that we're wrestling with in this series is, how do we get ahead of stupid? How do we get ahead of regret? That's another way of saying it. In other words, are there choices that we can make today that would help ensure that we have less regret tomorrow? There's an entire book of the Bible that's dedicated to this very topic. It's a book that's dedicated to providing godly wisdom for how to live successful, less regretful lives. It was actually written by an ancient king named Solomon who took time to write out these timeless principles that he had discovered through trial and error as he walked with God, and he recorded them for us. He documented them in a collection that we call the Proverbs that's found in the Old Testament. In a way, the book of Proverbs is Solomon's way of saying, live by these principles, live by this wisdom, and you will be wiser as a result, because this is how God intended you to live. This is how God made you to live. It's almost like Solomon is trying to reach out through the pages of the Proverbs to just grab us by the shoulders and let us know your future self will thank you if you live by these principles of wisdom that God gives us. And that's why thousands and thousands of us, I think almost 15,000 of us here at our church right now, this month we're just reading one chapter of Proverbs a day for the month of August. There's 31 chapters in Proverbs, and conveniently there's 31 days in the month of August, and so we're just reading the chapter of Proverbs that corresponds with the date on the calendar. So on the 11th we read, chapter 11, on the 12th we read 12, and 13, 13. And so listen, if you haven't already, start reading Proverbs with us today. Just start today. If you want to follow with the same reading plan that thousands of us are using, then just go to the LCBC app. We've created a reading plan and a reading guide that's really well done. You can follow along there, but don't worry about catching up. Don't worry about the other days. Just jump in today. Just jump in today. And if you do, there's several themes that you're going to see real quickly that kind of run through the Proverbs. Areas of life that God provides wisdom in. You're going to see a lot of wisdom about money and how we handle our money. You're going to see wisdom about sex. Yes, the Bible talks about sex. One of my favorite Proverbs. You can't scoop a coal in your lap and expect not to get burned. We unpack that later. Anyways, relationships. Some of you, the rest of the time, you're just going to be thinking about that one. Talks about wisdom about relationships, talks about wisdom about work. And then there's one topic in particular that's talked about in the book of Proverbs more than any other topic, more than any other subject, other than the topic of wisdom itself. It's something that every single one of us uses on a daily basis. You've already used it today. It's something that has gotten far too many of us in trouble. And at times, it's something that God speaks such wisdom into. If we will just pay attention. You know what it is? It's our words. It's our speech. It's the way we use our words. You ever said something you regret? Like in the last hour, right? Getting your kids ready for church. We got to talk about our words. One of the things I love about the Proverbs is just how simple they are. They're so simple. They're so practical. They're so applicable. I want you to listen to how Solomon talks about the power of our words. He breaks it down. I feel like this is the meta proverb. This is like the umbrella proverb of all the ones about words. He kind of sets the stage here. Proverbs 18:21. Listen to this. The tongue, our words, our speech, the tongue can bring death or life. Those who love to talk will reap the consequences. You got to live with what you say. See, I love the simplicity. Solomon's saying that our words can break down into one or two categories: life-giving words or life-taking words. Think about the categories that we're given here. If you think about just two columns, life and death, our words can build up, our words can tear down. Our words can inspire, our words can deflate, our words can encourage, our words can discourage. Life-giving words, I'm telling you, some of you know this, life-giving words can change the culture of your organization. If you're leading in the marketplace right now, it can change the culture of your organization. And life-robbing words can create a workplace that nobody wants to show up to. Life-giving words can change the atmosphere of your home. And life-robbing words can create walls between families. Life-giving words can motivate people beyond what they thought was possible. And life-robbing words can make someone shrink back and live small. And you know this because you've been on the receiving end of both of those realities, haven't you? Every single one of us. And we cling to life-giving words, don't we? You know what I mean? Like we cling to them. Whenever someone gives them to us, we hold on to them. How many of you can recall words that someone spoke to you that pushed you past something, that spoke belief into your life and that encouraged you, that sparked creativity in you? They spoke words that gave you confidence, words that expanded your faith. You ever gotten a text or a note or a voicemail, that was so life-giving to you that you read it a second time? Or maybe a third time? Or something that was given to you and you still held on to it. You kept that voicemail. You kept that text. You kept that note. You put it in a special place. Why do we do this? It's because we intrinsically know that this 3,000-year-old truth, this wisdom from God, that it's true. Words carry the power of life and death, and we cling to life-giving words. Well, let's talk about the other column for a second. Words can also rob us of life. Guys, look, I would almost guarantee someone in this room, this is true for, dreams have died because someone told you it was a dumb idea. And we put it up on the shelf. Relationships have died because of words. Confidence has died because of words spoken. And if you picked up some life-robbing messages along the way, I'm just telling you, you're definitely not alone. In fact, I came across some research that said that the best estimate is that people hear 18 negative comments for every one positive comment. Particularly children, by the way. 18 negative for every one positive. This is how it plays out. This is the ratio that we tend to go through life on. The point is, most of our experiences would confirm this right here, that for every I'm proud of you, for every I love you, for every great job on that presentation, for every I cannot imagine a better wife, we hear disproportionately more, that'll never work. What are you, stupid or something? You're so lazy, you're so annoying, you're so weak, you're so fat, you're so difficult. I'm just telling you, that's a problem. This is a problem. And you can change it. See, unfortunately, we don't have a choice over the words spoken to us. But you have a choice over the words you speak to others. In which column you're going to put your words in. And God offers us the wisdom we need related to the words we use, that if you put some of what we're going to see into practice, I'm telling you, you put this into practice, you will be the kind of person who speaks words that land more on the life-giving side of this equation than the life-taking side. And if that's what you want for your life, if you want to use your words in a life-giving way, it's going to mean you got to pay attention to three things. This is what we're going to talk about. You got to pay attention. If you want your words to be life-giving, you got to pay attention to the thoughts behind your words. You're going to have to pay attention to the tone of your words, and you're going to have to pay attention to the timing of your words. Your thoughts, your tone, and your timing. So I want to look at these. I'm going to be super practical today, really simple. Some weekends are inspirational, some are motivational, some are challenging. This is going to be simple. Because the Proverbs are meant to be lived out and applied, not just thought about. So we're going to make it real simple. Let's talk about the connection first. You're going to have to pay attention to your thoughts. Let's talk about the connection between our thoughts and your words. Listen to what Proverbs 12:18 says. It says, some people make cutting remarks. There's our words, right? Cutting remarks. Some people make cutting remarks, but the words of the wise bring healing. You ever said something and almost literally as those words are coming out of your mouth, you regret them already? And you wish that there was some special device you could just collect them and put them back, but it doesn't work like that, right? But then instead of it, here's what we do. Instead of just owning it, we pass it off like, well, don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke. I didn't really mean it like that. And see, this is why Solomon talks about our words being like a knife or a dagger or a sword. Our words cut. What he said, cutting remarks. See, when we speak critical words, when we speak discouraging words, nagging words, life-robbing words, it's almost like he's saying, man, the sword is thrust. The dagger is thrown at that point, and you can never make it as if that word were not spoken. Can't put it back in. And as you know, once the sword is thrust and it lands, that sword may not always be there. I can take the sword out, but the scar will remain, won't it? And see, this explains why some of us, we've been out of middle school for years. Some of us, we've been out of middle school for decades, and yet every time we look in the mirror, we still see the thing that people made fun of us about. The scar's still there. This is why I couldn't even begin, guys, I couldn't even begin to count how many men I've talked to over the years who cannot remember much about their childhood, but they can tell you all the words their dad spoke to them that cut. Because the sting of a cut, it lasts well beyond the injury itself. See, this proverb it's all about restraint. Because the best way to ensure that the blade of your words doesn't do any damage to the person on the receiving end of the blade is to what? Never take the blade out. Don't take it out. In other words, wise people pay attention to their thoughts before they express their thoughts in words. In fact, Proverbs 16:23 says that from a wise mind comes wise speech. How you think about others will eventually spill out in words, and wise people know that there is a critical moment between thinking something and then the decision to say that thing, that moment between those two things is the difference between a sword being thrust or not. You see, what's interesting to me, we talk about putting a filter on our words. You ever heard someone say that? Like, I don't have a good filter. We kind of use that metaphor, that word picture. What's crazy is that's not just a metaphor. We've been given a physical, God-given filter for our tongue. You know what it is? It's your mouth. It's your lips. Shut it. You can shut it. I can shut it. You ever been around someone who smacked, by the way? You ever been around someone who smacked when they ate? If they're around you right now, just point to them. No, don't do that. Don't do that. What do you do? What do you tell someone when they're smacking? You say something like, just chew with your mouth. Shut it, please, right? I've shared this with you before, and if if God gives me a lot of years with you, I'm going to share this a bunch more times before. This is how I think about it, okay? So I just like things simple. Here's what I think Solomon is saying here. Ready? Let me sum it up. Think with your mouth closed. Just think with your mouth closed. Not every thought you think needs to be said. That is revolutionary for some of you right now. Not every thought needs to be said. Saying nothing is so much better than saying something that leaves a scar. And guys, listen, if we could just get this simple idea down right here, we could stop today. If we just did this, how much damage would be avoided in relationships? How many apologies would never have to happen? How many wounds would never be inflicted? If you want your future self to thank you for the way that you handle your words, we have to ask God to help us become people of restraint, to think with our mouths closed, because our words can cut, and you cannot take it back once the sword has been thrust. And guys, listen, I believe this. I believe that for some of you today, God is prompting you. And He's trying to open your eyes. He's trying to get your attention today that there are some words that you have been using that should be ruthlessly eliminated from your life. You should fight to eliminate them because it's robbing life from others. They're cutting. We have to learn to think with our mouths closed and use restraint. But then Solomon gives us the flip side of this idea. We have to also become people who pay attention to the timing of our words. This is what Proverbs 25:11 says. I love this. Timely advice is lovely. Like timely words, timely advice, it's lovely. It's like golden apples in a silver basket. Like, what's better than an apple? A golden apple. The Proverbs talks in multiple places about the timing of our words. And Solomon's saying here that the right thing said at the right time can actually provide us with nourishment. It can feed something in us. It's like being given a golden apple when we're hungry. See, we've got to learn restraint with our life-robbing words, but there should be no restraint. Listen, there should be no restraint on life-giving words because people around us need to be fed words of life. So here's a principle to remember. Again, shared this with you before. I'll keep sharing it. If you're wanting to know when the right timing is to give life-giving words, to share those golden apples, think about it this way. Here's it. If you think it and it's encouraging, say it. If you think it and it's encouraging, say it. Here's what I mean by this. How many times do we have a positive thought about someone? An encouraging thought about something that we're just grateful for about that person, something that we noticed that we want to encourage in that person, something that we're proud of them about, and we think it, but we never say it. Be impulsive and indiscriminate with life-giving words. That's what Solomon's saying here. That's what a wise person does. If you think it and it's encouraging, say it, text it, right then, right there, write it, speak it, make the call. I got to tell you, man, I hope when people encounter our church here at LCBC, I hope they feel and sense encouragement in the atmosphere here at LCBC. I hope that you make it a personal mission that you do not leave here. You don't leave church every weekend without saying something encouraging, at least one person. You can find something. Man, I'm so glad I got to meet you today. Man, you know what? You see the way a dad handles a situation on the atrium with the kid melting down and he handles the go up to him. Man, I can tell you're a great dad. Hey, that dress looks great on you. Guys, that's for the ladies. Don't be going up to a bunch of ladies, guys, and saying, Pastor, hey, dress looks great on you. That's for the ladies. But you know what I mean? We can find all right, some of you I just lost. Anyways, I hope there's golden apples I hope it's all in the air here, man, just being handed out everywhere. That's who we are as a church. But I want you to think about the people closest to you in your life as well. Don't keep encouragement locked up in your head, guys. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't starve the people around you of life-giving words. See, there's an ache in some of us over unspoken words. You know that? There's an ache in some of us right now. Words that you longed to hear spoken to you. You wanted it so bad, but it just never came. Some of you still to this day, you have an ache in your soul because you just wanted to hear your dad say that he was proud of you. You never heard it. You just wanted to hear the words, I love you. You didn't hear it. And if that's you, I just want you to know you have a heavenly Father who speaks the final word over you, who speaks the ultimate word over you. You know in Ephesians what he says about you? He says that you are his masterpiece. He says that he chose you. He said that he loves you and that he has good plans for you, that he has a purpose for you. But I also know that as much as God can heal our wounds with his words of life, that's the ultimate healing we need, by the way, where he speaks over us, but he's also given us each other to speak life and encouragement into the lives of others, to be his mouthpiece. Do not sit on the words that people around you long to hear. Don't store up a bunch of golden apples. Give them away. If you think it, and it's encouraging, say it. Our future selves will thank us for thinking with our mouth closed. Will thank us for being impulsive and indiscriminate in our encouragement. And Solomon gives us one more area to pay attention to: the tone of our words. The tone of our words. This is what it says in Proverbs 25. It says, patience can persuade a prince. I love this next part. And soft speech, that's the tone, soft speech can break bones. I love that image. I got a bone here. I don't know what kind of bone it is. I'm assuming it's not human, but it very well could be. I don't know what it is. You know that 1 cubic inch of bone, I don't know if you knew, this is crazy. 1 cubic inch of bone, in principle, can bear a load of 19,000 pounds. That's roughly 5 pickup trucks, making it 4 times as strong as concrete. And in the ancient Hebrew world, when this was first written, the bone, it was a symbol, it was a metaphor, it was a word picture of hardened resistance to something. So today we might say something, we might say about someone, you ever heard the phrase like, well, their walls were up. I tried to talk to them, but their walls were up. Kind of that idea. Like they were resistant. That's the same kind of idea here. And Solomon is saying that there is a way of speaking, of using our words, that if we pay attention to it, can have such an effect on the listener that it could break down walls. It can actually break down walls. But the key will be in how we say the things that we want to say, the tone we use. This passage is all about the tone of our words. The focus is on what? Soft speech. The tone of our words can completely change the atmosphere of a conversation, can't it? I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a conversation with Jenny, and I know it's going to be a tense conversation, and so I go into that conversation, walls up, I'm ready to unload. I've already had the pre-conversation. You ever had a pre-conversation before the real one? I've already had my pre-conversation, and I'm coming in locked and loaded, and before I can even open my mouth, she speaks with a tone of grace. She speaks with a tone of gentleness, soft speech. She says something like, hey, before we start, we're on the same team. Hey, before we start, I just want you to know, I know the part I played in this, and I'm so sorry. And I'm like, dang it! Because I came in ready. But you just broke down my walls. That's the power, right, of tone. And all of a sudden, that hardened resistance is broken down. The tone of our words matters. There's words that we can use that spoken in the wrong tone can rob life in people. Here's the principle. Let me just kind of state it this way. You know, the right thing said in the wrong tone makes it the wrong thing. Sometimes it's the right thing to say. We need to say something. We just say it in a tone that makes it the wrong thing. In other words, how you say something at times is more important than what you say. You know, our words have accents. I'm not talking about a Pennsylvania Dutch accent. I'm not talking about a Delco accent. I'm not talking about a Southern accent. I mean that we can speak with an accent of sarcasm. You can speak and use words with an accent of contempt, an accent of shame. You can speak with an accent of self-righteousness. You can speak with an accent of hate. You can speak with an accent of apathy. Here's a great example. Listen to the fundamental difference between these two. Same words, a B, great job. Or a B, great job. Same words, very different message. Because the accent changed. The tone. Your accent will be what determines, so often will be what determines whether the words you use end up on the life-giving side of the equation or the life-robbing side. And your accent will determine whether the words you speak are hearable by the other person. See, at some point, we have to take responsibility for how people hear us. See, some of us, we've hidden behind the whole, well, I'm just being honest, just being honest. People don't like it, they can just get over it, which is really just code. Everybody knows it. It's like, I'm just a jerk and I don't want to change. That's what you're saying. But you're better than that. You are better than that. And the people around you deserve better than that. And God has a way better vision for the way you use your words. Words that breathe life into people around you because you gave thought to how you said what you said. And too many words and exchanges have put on the life-robbing side of the board because they were said with an accent that made it hard to hear, with tones that did not build up the person, but tone that shamed them, that nagged them, that tore them down, that manipulated them. If you want to live with less regret tomorrow, God is making it clear in the wisdom of these proverbs that our future selves will thank us for taking our words seriously. You will never, I'm telling you, you will never regret thinking with your mouth closed. You'll never regret it. You will never regret being impulsive and indiscriminate with encouragement. Nobody is in counseling because they've been encouraged too much. You will never regret listening to the tone of your words. And your future self will thank you. And most importantly of all, the people around you will come to life in new ways. So let me sum this up. I want to sum all this up with one more proverb. I think this is kind of the umbrella over it all. This is what Proverbs 18:4 says. Listen to this. Wise words, our speech, the way we use our words, wise words, you know what they're like? They're like deep water. Waters, like wisdom that flows from the wise. It's like a bubbling brook. Solomon's saying there are words, it's like fresh water. What does water do? It does a lot of things, right? Water refreshes us. Water cleanses us. Water rehydrates us. Water cools us. You want to sum it all up? Water brings life. You ever been in need of water? Like really, truly in need of water. You were exhausted, you were tired, you exerted yourself, whatever, and you were just dehydrated, you were parched. There's an image from the Olympics recently that I saw that it kind of just struck me. It was right after the triathlon was finished, and these guys get done biking, and as if that weren't enough, swimming, and as if that weren't enough, running. And they get across the finish line and they just fall out. They're exhausted. They're dehydrated. They're parched. They're just kind of laid out. Now, just feel the tension for just a moment. If those men right there, as they're laying there, if those men laid there for 5 minutes before anyone attended to them, 10 minutes go by, no one brings them anything. 20 minutes goes by, nothing. And all they need is some water. All they need is some water. And imagine that man standing right there. You see the guy in the white who I guess works for the Olympics there, and he's standing there over top of him. I don't know if you can see it or not. See what he's holding in his hand? Water. Imagine if he held that water and he never offered it to him. Parents, lean in just for a second. Parents, your kids are parched for life-giving words. They're tired. They're exhausted from trying to win the approval of their friends, trying to get the attention of others, trying to keep up with all the people they see on social media that just remind them constantly they're not pretty enough, they're not thin enough, they're not popular enough, they're not strong enough. They're tired and they're parched and they need the water of your words. And parents, listen, if we don't fill our kids up with life-giving words, I promise you they will go look for them somewhere else. What you don't know is whether the somewhere else has their best interest. And I realize that some of you didn't see this model growing up. You didn't grow up in homes where you heard the words, I love you. You didn't grow up in homes where you heard, I'm proud of you. You didn't grow up in a home where you heard, you are beautiful. And so I get it. It doesn't come naturally to you to use words that bring life because you didn't see it. But I'm sorry, guys, I need to tell you this. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse anymore. You have the potential, by the power of God living in you, to create a different story for your kids. You are not bound by your past. God frees us to step into a future that is changed and different, where we set a new course for our families. And you now have the opportunity to fill your kids up so full of life-giving words that they never, make it your life's aim, that your kids will never have to guess as to how you feel about them. If you're in the marketplace, your employees, some of you, you're leading the marketplace, your employees, your team members, your coworkers, they're parched. And you can change the whole tone of your workplace by seeing each conversation, interaction as a moment that you can bring some water, you can bring some life. Your spouse is parched, has a desire to hear words of life spoken over her, spoken over him, words that build up. Guys, God has given us the wisdom of these proverbs to remind us that our words have more power than we tend to give credit for to them. They have the power to serve as water to a person who needs it. So I'm going to leave you with just 2 questions that I want you to consider today, that I think these proverbs bring up. The first is this: are there any life-robbing words that it's time for you to ruthlessly eliminate? Life-robbing tones that it's time to just make a decision. God, I want to live by your wisdom. I'm eliminating these from my life. Second question is just, are there any life-giving words? Are there any life-giving words that it's time to say? You've been sitting on them. It can be simple. You've just been sitting on them. It's time to offer them. Maybe you said them before. It's time to say it again. See, one that gets me excited, and I believe it's going to happen. Some of you, you're going to tell your wife you love her for the first time in years. Give her a little bit of water. Some of you are going to tell your husband that you're proud of him for the first time ever. Some of you are going to tell your parents that you are grateful for what they do for the first time they've ever heard it from you. And then they're going to pass out. Some of you are going to make the call today. And you got 2 words you need to say. You're just going to say, I'm sorry. And that's going to start a journey towards healing. Some of you, you're going to send a text letting them know how incredibly proud you are of them. Guys, God offers such incredible wisdom for living, doesn't he? Just such incredible wisdom for living a remarkable life. But I need you to hear this. At the end of the day, God's not after just cleaning up our speech. You know that, right? He's not after just cleaning up our speech. He wants to change our hearts. He wants to change our hearts to be the kind of people who want to bring life-giving words, not have to. This is why Jesus said in Luke 6 that out of your heart your mouth speaks. We need new hearts. We need new hearts. More than we need new words. And for some of you, that's where it starts today. By just surrendering your heart to Jesus today. And saying, Jesus, change my heart. I open it up to you. I invite you in. Make me alive so that my words bring life to others. Your future self will never regret that. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, thank you for the wisdom that you give us to live successful lives today. You give such practical wisdom. God, I pray that we live this stuff out. I pray that we act on it. God, bring to mind for all of us here today, bring to mind if there's any life-robbing words we've been saying, we just got in the habit of saying them, life-robbing tones and accents we've been using. God, I just pray that we ruthlessly eliminate them. We make a decision today. We're just not going to say that anymore in our home. We're not going to say that anymore. I pray that you would bring to mind any life-giving words, like golden apples that we've just been storing up. It's just time we need to give them. God, I pray that we'd be a people here that are impulsive and indiscriminate with our encouragement. And I pray as a result, Jesus, that people around us are brought to life, that they never have to guess where they stand with us, because our words have been water. We pray this all in your name, Jesus. Amen.